What's up, guys, and welcome to today's video. As you can see, I'm back at it again with the orange nails. I decided to go with a bit of a different color this time, so now it's more of like a burnt orange. Got some sparkle to it, you know, so that's fun. But I wanted to kind of, I don't know, start a little series here and talk about some of the knives that I have that I haven't really had the chance to make a review about, or that I haven't talked about in a long while, or that I probably won't be able to make a review about. Because the unfortunate truth is that we've been getting in a lot of knives from a lot of different companies, and I have a lot of knives in my collection, and there's certain things that just like, I don't know, don't necessarily make sense to make like a review about. And so while I really love producing the full-scale review content, there's also some things that I just really can't make an entire video about, or that like wouldn't make sense to make a whole review about. So instead I've decided to start making little showcase videos like this one, where I showcase some of my knives and talk about them. And so it's not quite as nice and produced as some of our other videos, but you know, it's still, I don't know, it's kind of fun, little cool. I get to show you some of the cool stuff that I have and what I enjoy, so that is what we're doing today. So today I have my Benchmade 51, but I don't just have this one, I have both of my Benchmade 51s, and they're both unique for a lot of special reasons. These are both like Franken 51s, and you know, you can see me talking a lot about the 51 in my review of the Benchmade 51. But I made that a long time ago now, and I think that there's some stuff I'd like to address in terms of like the 51 and the modding scene behind it and how that's kind of changed over time. So the first thing is, unfortunately, most of the mods that exist now, and one of the reasons that I don't really think I can make a full-scale video about this again, is because most of the mods don't exist anymore. Like they're almost all entirely gone. Like all of the people, all of the stuff behind the Benchmade 51 modding scene, it just kind of disappeared. And the whole reason for that is because, well, now there's just better knives that you can buy. Like, you know, you can just buy a better Balisong instead of spending a bunch of money on a Benchmade 51 and then spending a bunch of money on mods and stuff. Like, you don't have to do that. You can just get a better knife. And, you know, I think that for a lot of people is the reason that the Benchmade 51 modding scene disappeared. But I still find them very fun and interesting and unique to flip, and so I think that there's still some merit to wanting to own a modded Benchmade 51. So, before we get into my main one, because this is the one that I have that is like I've put all of my love and effort into and is my very, very weird Benchmade 51, I want to talk about this Benchmade 51 first, which is a little, it's still very unique, but it's got a little less going on. Though I will admit something that's kind of funny about both of these. You know, in the Benchmade 51 review video, where I talked about how like the whole point of the Benchmade 51 is the modding scene behind it, or at least it was at the time when the modding scene existed, is that, you know, you get to change it and make it your own. And I had so many comments from people that are like, oh, well, you know, you changed every part of it. It's not even a Benchmade 51 anymore. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Why would you want a Benchmade 51 when you could have this? Like, it's so much better than a 51. And I think people were missing the point, because a lot of those comments were from people who are kind of like newer to the Balisong market or newer to the scene, and are like, I think what they meant was, you know, after you change all the parts, it's not a 51 anymore, so why don't you just buy a better knife, and then you don't have to go through all that. And that's fair, but at the time, you know, there wasn't that many better knives, and so the most accessible knife that you could get was the Benchmade 51, and there were a bunch of mods for it that were also very accessible. So overall, like, honestly, for some people, the best choice was getting a Benchmade 51 and then modding the crap out of it, and yeah, all that jazz. So yeah, I think both of these are super interesting for their own separate reasons. So like this one, so if I just go ahead and put this guy away, this one is very cool. So it has EDC handles, which are the gunner grip model of their handles. I believe these are the kind of rounded gunner grip, because I actually had a pair of gunner grip scales before this that they're made of titanium. They fit and have kind of the same look as the original scales, but they have this like grip pattern. And it was actually a little too aggressive for me when I first got some. I think I got some that weren't rounded. I don't think they rounded off the ends of them, and so they were very sharp, and like it was almost like sandpaper. Like it was like flipping handles made of sandpaper, and that was not great. So this is much better. The bumps kind of remind me of like my Balisong in a way. It's a very nice, very easy to use knife. As you can see, I'm dropping it kind of a lot, and that's because it's kind of short and I'm not super used to flipping it. But it is really fun to flip. It's a very unique flipping experience, if you want to try to get used to a shorter knife. Also, it's a little handle biased, but it's actually not that bad due to the gunner grip scales aren't that heavy. Like, they're definitely heavier than G10, so that's something to be aware of, but it's not too handle biased. And another reason for it not being too handle biased is these spacers. So these spacers are carbon fiber spacers that I got custom made, and they're bacon carbon fiber, so they kind of got like bacon lines running through them. They're very pretty, I think. And yeah, they're custom-made spacers. They turn it into a completely latchless design because they kind of like, move away the latches. What? There we go. That's better. They make it a completely latchless design. And honestly, I just think they look freaking amazing. Like they're really pretty, and they feel really nice to flip with. Like, they make the bottom of this thing extremely smooth and extremely like good feeling in the hand. Like if I was to pop one of those, like that feels super good to do. So that's always very, very cool, and a big reason that I love flipping this thing, even when I throw it like that. The other thing that it has, obviously, is it has the Flytanium Zenith live blade on this one, actually. And the Zenith blade was something that Flytanium created, and honestly is one of my favorite Balisong mods in general. It's just a really, really good blade design, in my opinion. It's this really nice spear point. It's kind of like a Tonto-esque spear point. It's very, very nice. I think the design looks amazing. I got it blackened, so this is steel that's been like acid washed and blackened slightly. As you can see in the finish in the sunlight, it's very, it's kind of darker, and it's definitely not like it is stock, which is, literally this satin. And yeah, this thing has been through a lot of iterations with me, and I think I'm gonna actually end up putting it back. It was originally on the other Benchmade 51 I have, and this had this blade originally, and this blade is very interesting because, as you can see, it is a stock Benchmade 51 blade, right? It's a pretty stock blade experience, except it has had bushings installed into it. I think, and I could be wrong about this, I think the bushings were installed by Ben Parley. Ben Parley is an amazing dude. But yeah, I'm not totally sure what happened there. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to say that, both of these blades are fantastic and unique in their own separate ways. This one, the Zenith Live blade, just comes with the bushings pre-installed from Flytanium, and then this one had bushings installed by, I believe, Ben Parley, and both of them are fantastic, but I think I'm going to actually switch them back so that this one has this blade and this one has this blade, so they'll swap. Because I think this fits the look of this just way better, and they kind of don't work in the reverse. Another thing you'll notice that I have this anodized purple, whereas this is the original blue anodization. And also I've replaced the hardware in most of these. So this one, all of the hardware is T8. I've got a B. All of the hardware on this thing is T8 hardware, whereas this one has T15 hardware and T8 hardware. So honestly, the all T8 hardware is very convenient because you can just adjust every single one of them with one screw, and the T15 is a little annoying because T15 is very big and screw that you don't see a lot. So moving on. Now we have my pride and joy, my main one. This one has a lot of story for me. I originally bought this as a stock Benchmade 51. It was one of the first actual Balisongs I ever bought for myself. And so I was very proud to own, this stock Benchmade 51. And for a long time, I wanted you know, I wanted Flytanium scales. And I had gotten a pair of Flytanium V5 scales, and I really liked them a lot. I think they were, you know, I thought maybe they were V3. I don't remember exactly which version, but they were, you know, standard Flytanium full titanium scales. And I really enjoyed them a lot, but I wanted for the longest time, and it eluded me, this design. It's the carbon fiber inlay scales from Flytanium, and they are exceedingly rare. I believe they only made around like 20 of them, so they really didn't make much. And so there's multiple versions of the CF inlay. There is one where they kind of like, and I did own this for a minute, where they like machined it all together, and then it had holes drilled into it. They machined it all together, and then they had holes drilled into it and stuff. And that was cool, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it as much as this design. This design just stood out to me. I just really like the way that you have this like beautiful carbon fiber that's like inlaid into this handle. I don't know. I think it looks brilliant, personally. And so I was really, really like excited, because I thought, you know, if I could get a hold of this, I'd be very, very happy. And so I actually managed to find a person who was selling them, and they were selling them in kind of shitty condition. He was selling an entire Benchmade 51 that had the carbon fiber inlay scales on it, and it was this like rainbow anodization that I think had come from the factory, but it was really worn off and didn't look great. And the carbon fiber actually was kind of scuffed up and scratched and like didn't look great either. So what I had to do is I actually spent an entire process of, first I removed the carbon fiber from all of these. I polished every single one of the handles. I completely removed the anodization by polishing it by hand. That shit sucked, but it looked really good in the end. It was like very, very pretty. I think if you go back far enough in my Instagram, you can find pictures of me, you know, with this, where it was like fully polished, like chromed out. I don't know. I think it looked dope as hell. But it was like chromed out, completely polished, and then I actually went in and resurfaced the carbon fiber. So I used sandpaper to go in and make sure that the carbon fiber looked pretty again. And yeah, it was just a lot of work that I put in just to make these handles look as good as they do. And then eventually I used an oxide bath, which is very easy. You just literally take high-grade titanium and put it into a boiling water with OxyClean, and it darkens it. And so I darkened the titanium myself. And yeah, I really like the way that it turned out. I will admit these handles make this knife very handle heavy, but that just means that it's a very unique flipper. And for me personally, I do really enjoy the way it flips, even if it's very weird. It is not a good flipper by any stretch of the imagination in terms of what people consider to be a good flipper. It's just a good flipper to me because I put so much love into it, and also I've flipped it so much that I've gotten good at flipping it. You know, that's kind of how that works. Then alongside that, as you can see, it actually has Jimpy Design Space Invaders installed on it, and I got these, once again, they were originally installed on this, and I had the carbon fiber spacers installed in here. And the Jimpy Design Space Invaders were a thing that I won from a raffle that Alicer on Instagram ran, and so I won this and these spacers in that raffle, which was extremely cool. And I put the spacers on here, and originally I believe they were blue, so I contacted Alicer, who happened to have a pair of the orange spacers, and so we traded. And so, because I, you know, obviously I gotta have the orange. Like, what am I doing if I don't have the orange? Oh, there's a ladybug. Look, a ladybug. So yeah, I got the orange spacers. And yeah, I just really, really like this thing. Other things I did to it is I completely replaced the, these are DDR hardware, Daryl D. Ralph. They are, like, they don't make them anymore, unfortunately, and I had to mod them, so as you can see, it's got a hole in the back and then a T15 size screw that goes into it, and I actually had to grind them down with a Dremel to get them to be the right length, because they come too long, so you have to cut them down. And then you can put it in. So it has T15 hardware, and then it has T8 screws all over, which is just like so much stuff. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting, very unique sort of knife. And both of my 51s are. And so yeah, as I said before, like, you know, people are like, oh, well, you didn't, you know, why did you replace all the parts? That's not even a 51 anymore. And it's like, yeah, it's not. Like, it's literally not. And that's the point, you know, like that's the art of it, is that you can kind of make it whatever you want, you know. And so, yeah, for me, it's kind of an antiquated thing, but, you know, wanting an old style custom Benchmade 51, I think is pretty freaking cool, because it's a very cool, very unique Balisong that I just really enjoy a lot, and I enjoy having. And yeah, so that's the story behind both of my Benchmade 51s. I'm gonna kind of do videos like this about, I think, most of my other knives, just to, you know, hopefully show you guys a little bit more, give you a little more content in terms of like what I think about knives. Because the problem is our review videos, you know, right now I'm actually editing the second episode of the Squid Industries factory tour, and I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode, because that took a lot of effort. And so I'm currently editing the second episode, which is the assembly process, and like, you know, that kind of stuff takes a long time to produce, and so does our reviews. Our reviews take an incredibly long time to produce because I have to script the entire thing. You know, we used to shoot them where instead of scripting it, what we would do is I would literally just like take notes as to what I wanted to talk about, and then I'd sit in front of the camera and like try to come up with the points live, and that would take upwards of 8 to 10 hours of shooting just for me to say, like, just for me to talk in front of the camera and say everything I was thinking. 8 to 10 hours just for that. That was insane. So now I script everything, and it makes it a lot easier because we can shoot one of those segments in like 2 to 3 hours, and then like sometimes if we're doing really good, we can get it within an hour, but that's kind of rare. So usually it's 2 to 3 hours of shooting for the you know, the talking head segment. And this is for a 10-minute long video, right? You know, so we're spending like 2 to 3 hours shooting just the talking head, and then we go out and spend another like 5 hours shooting all of the B-roll. So like, you know, walking around in like a park or something, and Brandon's getting all the different cool shots of me flipping, you know, that's all, that takes a really long time for us to do. And then it takes me at least a solid week to edit. And so that's where I'm really thankful for like the people who are supporting us on Patreon, or just all of you watching these videos, because, you know, any bit of like support watching the videos helps us, you know, be supported enough that we can afford to make these videos. Because, yeah, they're a lot of effort. They take a lot of effort, and that's one of the reasons that I want to do this series, is because, like, if I can make lower effort videos where I talk about knives and you guys can kind of get more of my opinions, you know, eventually I'll get to doing the full-size reviews, and I will make the reviews of the knife. But doing showcases like this, I think, will allow me to kind of express myself a little bit more in a way that's easier for me to do, you know, than making a whole freaking production. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you guys learned something about my Benchmade 51s. You know, maybe it inspired you to go get your own custom 51, or maybe you think it's stupid. But either way, I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye.